Before the Seed by Susannah Buhrman-Deever, illustrated by Gina, Triplett, and Curtius. This is the cover. This is the spine. This is the back of the book. We live in a world of green that grows from seeds, but what happens before there are seeds? MIT Kids Press. This is the page, the opening page. And let's get to the title page. And this is the title page, Before the Seed, How Pollen Grows. Susannah Buhrman-Deever wrote it, illustrated by Gina, Triplett, and Curtius. So they had 2 illustrators. That's so cool. Can you see it? Okay, I can't read it though. What am I doing? I gotta find a way, y'all. I gotta find a way. Okay. Hopefully that works out. No, it doesn't. It's like backwards. So that, okay, let's go. All right. We live in a world of green, of fields, and forests filled with plants that grow from seeds. But before the seeds grow the green, pollen needs to move. But pollen is tiny, each grain no bigger than a speck. It has no wings, no wheels, and no feet. How can pollen move? Plants have found ways. Pollen is made by flowers on a part called the stamen. A flower begins making seeds when pollen lands on a different part of the flower, called the stigma. This movement of pollen from stamen to stigma is called pollination. Sometimes pollen from the same flower can make a seed, but most of the time pollen has farther to go to another flower on the same plant or another of the same kind of plant. No matter how far it moves, pollen can only make a seed when it meets up with the same kind of plant it came from. Some plants have flowers that launch their pollen into a puff of air to be scattered far and wide by the wind. There are at least 25,000 different kinds of wind pollinated flowers. Pollen grains from these plants are dry and light, so the wind can carry them farther to have a chance of hitting their targets. Wind pollinated plants have to release a lot of pollen. A single birch flower can release 5.5 million pollen grains, a whole tree, billions. Take grass is a water plant with male flowers that make pollen and female flowers where seeds grow. The male flower starts out underwater. The female flowers bloom at the surface when the time is right. The plant releases the male flowers and they rise up to the surface. There the male flower petals curve open, helping it float away like a boat. When the male flower reaches the surface floating female flower, it falls into the female flower and pollinates it. Others Others have flowers that set sail across the water, hoping their pollen will land in just the right place. But most flowering plants have 300,000 kinds. Don't do this most important jobs alone. Their pollen is carried out of their bodies of beetles and bees. There are at least 20,000 different species of bees in the world, with approximately 4,000 different species from North America alone. Some species visit many kinds of flowers, other species visit just a few. Beetles are the oldest known pollinator and animal that carries pollen. Scientists have found 99 million-year-old fossilized beetles covered with pollen. Today, 77,000 beetle species visit flowers. It is the dusted into fur and feathers. Bats are the main pollinator for more than 500 different kinds of plants. Each bat visits hundreds of flowers at night, and they are especially good at carrying pollen among plants that are spread far apart because they can fly long distances. Around 2,000 different bird species pollinate flowers, including hummingbirds, sunbirds, and honey eaters. Unlike insects, they don't fly in the rain. Birds can travel between flowers in all kinds of weather. Okay, or clings to mouths and wings, tongues, and toes. Most butterflies and moths carry pollen on their proboscis, flexible straw-like tongues, mouths, legs, and heads. The eastern tiger swallowtail carries the pollen of the flame azalea on its wings, dusting the flowers with pollen as it flaps. Flies pollinate at least 555 species of plants around the world, including many foods we eat, like tea and onions. Flies are the main pollinators in the Arctic, where the freezing temperatures and strong winds make it hard for many other insect pollinators, like most bees, to survive. Before the seeds grow the green, animals move pollen from flower to flower. How do animals find the flowers? Clumps of pollen from an African grassland orchid stick to the toes of a malachite sunbird when it perches on the orchid's tall flower stalks. So the question is, how do the animals find the flowers? Plants show them where to go using color and scent and even sound. The colors of flowers help them stand out and often match the colors of uh, their pollinators can see best. The secret of the honeysuckle guides the elephant hawk moth to the flowers at night. Honeybees remember the scents of the flowers they visited and fly towards them if they smell the scent again. Many bats use echolocation to navigate in the dark. The Margrovia evenia vine has special dish-shaped leaves above its flowers. The shape of these leaves helps bounce back a bat sound so that the bat can easily find the flowers. Female blowflies lay their eggs on dead animals. After the eggs hatch, the blowfly larvae eat the rotting body, carrying flowers, mimic dead animals. The flowers have dark red centers and smell rotten. The blowflies land on carrying flowers to lay their eggs, pollinating the flowers in the process, but their larvae will starve since there will be no meat to eat after they hatch. Before the seeds grow, the green, plants invite their pollinators to visit. But why do the animals come? Sometimes they come because plants play tricks, pretending to be something they're not. The broad-lipped bird orchid smells just like a female thine wasp. Male wasps visit the flowers thinking they have found a mate, but end up carrying the orchid's pollen instead. But most of the time, the animals come because the plants offer them a reward: sweet sips of nectar and extra protein packed pollen to eat. Nectar to sugary liquid made in a flower's nectar is an important part of the diet of many pollinators, giving them a boost of energy. Bees feed their larvae with pollen. The pollen from bat pollinated flowers has extra protein to better nourish their larger bodies. Closia or odorata flowers make resins that are collected by stingless bees. Trigona pollens, the bees use them to build waterproof nests. Male orchid bees collect scented oils from orchids, which they pack into pouches on their legs. They use the scent to attract mates. And sometimes sticky gluey resins or perfumed oils or even a cozy place to keep warm. Arum lilies heat up during the night. The heat helps the scare beetles that pollinate them to keep warm, enabling them to save energy. It's so cool how every flower has a mate. We live in a world of green with fields and forests full of plants that grow from seeds. Before the seeds grow, the green, most flowering plants and their pollinators help each other. But a plant's reward for the pollinators do not come free. Plants use energy to make pollen and nectar, resins, and oils and heat. How can a plant make sure its rewards don't go to waste? Some flowers have shapes that help their pollen hit its target. They may have tools built for hummingbird bills with parts that bend to bless their crowns. As an hummingbird beats its wings, it builds up a charge of static electricity around its body. When it approaches a tree tobacco flower, the electric charge bends the stamens towards the hummingbird's head and helps stick the pollen to it. Okay. Or a fit made for the face of a mosquito. So the flower can gently kiss its eyes with pollen. The blunt veined orchid is pollinated by the snow pool mosquito. As the mosquito slips its head into the flower to drink the nectar, a cluster of pollen is glued to the mosquito's eyes. When the mosquito drinks from the next flower, the pollen on the mosquito's eyes stick to that flower stigma. That is like so. I'm talking about. Oh my God, this is some great information. This is a good book. This is what I call a good book. Okay. Others may let their Others may let only their preferred partners retrieve their reward. Some hold tight to their pollen. It can be loosened by the busiest of bees. Some can only be opened by strong hands. Tomatoes don't let their pollen fall on just any visitor, but the bumblebees can shake it loose. When they visit tomato flowers, they grab on and vibrate their bodies at just the right rate to shower their bodies with pollen. The flowers at the traveler's tree are sealed tight with stiff coverings. Black lemurs use their strong hands to pull the coverings apart before burying their face inside to drink the nectar. While others have passages so narrow that only a tiny fly the size of a poppy seed can slip inside, coating its body with pollen like the sprinkling of sugar. Tiny body midges might be only 1 millimeter long, but they have a big job. They are the only known pollinator of the cocoa tree, whose seeds we use to make chocolate. I'm talking about this is some good information. And some hide their nectar down tubes so deep it can only be reached by tongues that are impossibly long. Long proboscis flies are key pollinators of at least 20 different flower species of South Africa's west coast. The flowers it pollinates have long tubes of 1 1/4 to 2 to 3/4 inches. The fly has a long proboscis to match up to the 8 times the length of its body. The partnership between yucca moths and yucca plants has lasted at least 40 million years. Only yucca moths pollinate yucca plants, and the moth's entire life cycle depends on the yucca. The moths emerge from the underground cocoons in the spring as the yucca blooms. After the moths mate on the blossoms, the female moth gathers pollen in special tentacles around her mouth. Then she carries the pollen to a different yucca flower and pollinates it. Finally, she lays her eggs inside the flower where the seeds will develop. After her seeds hatch, the moth larvae eat the yucca seeds, but enough seeds are left uneaten to become new yucca plants. And some plants and pollinators are so dependent on each other, so perfectly connected that neither could exist without the other, because pollen needs to move before the seeds. Grow the world green. What does it say? Because, oh yeah, before the seeds grow the world green. It's beautiful. And then here she gives you more, they give you more about flowers and the different parts of the flowers. I just love this book. Great, great, great job. Great job. And she gives you information. And that's it. But this is more about flowers, the stamen, the anther, the filament, the sepal, the receptacle, the nectar, the ovaries, the, the style, the stigma. All of this is the pistil. The pistil is made up of stigma, style, and ovary, and the stamen is made up the anther, up of the anther and the filament. And that's it. That's the end of the book, guys. I love this book. It's called Before the Seed, and it's all about pollen and pollinators. I just like the way that I just love the way that every flower has a friend. Every flower has like a different pollinator friend. I just like that. I like it. I like it. I actually love it. Anyway, you guys, have a great day.